everyone, and welcome to the For Fun of Knit podcast. My name is Linda, and this is my little YouTube channel where I share all the yarny goodness, all the adventures and misadventures in my knitting. I love sharing that because I learn so much from all of you, and we end up having some good giggles over some of the shenanigans we get into in our knitting. So my intention is to keep you company while you knit. So grab a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a bevy, depending on what time zone you're in, and let's have some fun with all the knitting stuff. So today is part 2 of my New Year series, and sounds too formal. It's only 3 videos that I'm doing. The first video was looking at 2022 and seeing what I liked and what I didn't like. This particular episode is going to be looking forward into 2023 and some of my plans. And then the next episode, the third, is just really about Linda taking control of her stash. But both this episode and the next episode obviously will include all the yarny goodness of finished objects, WIPs, and a few little acquisitions. So why don't we get started with that? So without further ado, what am I wearing? I am wearing the Millie Sweater, which is an easy raglan sweater. And I'll put a picture up, obviously. But I knit this in All You Knit Is Love in their Murmur base. I can't remember the colorway. Oh dear, it's something like Bordeaux. Might be Bordeaux. And this is a beautiful silk mohair blend. And it's speckled, as you can see, and it's held together with some very baby pink, and I think it's called baby pink, silk mohair. Both of these yarns I bought at Barcelona Knits in Spain in 2019. So it's a very sentimental sweater for me. It's by no means perfect. As a matter of fact, fuzz, when I was putting it on this morning, I wear this all the time. Okay, it's pilling because I wear this all the time. Oh, and I got fuzz. But I noticed on the back, I dropped a stitch. And all this time I've been wearing it, and it's been washed and reblocked. And all this time, it was the silk mohair holding on to that one stitch. So when I finish this particular podcast, I have to go and repair the one stitch. It hasn't run, it's just hanging there, but I noticed it today. Oh my God, I've been wearing the sweater since 2020 because I finished it in 2020. But I think I finished it in 2020. Yeah, I did. Needless to say, that is what I'm wearing, and I absolutely love it. And you can see it. It's quite loose or quite got lots of positive ease. I love it that way. I just tuck it in, obviously. And it's got bracelet length sleeves, and the only reason it's got bracelet length sleeves is because I ran out of yarn. So I would have made the sleeves longer because, see, when you put a jacket on or lift your arms up, because it's a raglan, it draws the whole sleeve up. So normally I would have knitted a bit longer, but I say normally, I wouldn't have back in 2019. I knew nothing about sweater making. Zippo, zero. Well, not zero, but not very much. And so I would never have thought about all those things. But now, as I sit here in 2023, the future Linda goes, oh yeah, no, I would have done that differently. So that's the kind of fun. And that's the fun about actually podcasting, is you get to see that growth over time, which is kind of fun. And you've all been along with, many of you have been along for the entire journey. So thank you. Thank you. Secondly, I wanted to just address what I was wearing last episode. And so this is the Nina sweater. And we'll talk about that baby in a minute. But this is the Nina sweater, and I've talked about this on a podcast before. But this sweater does not look the same as it does on Ravelry. Why? My sister and I knit this together, and neither of us liked the neckline. So we adjusted the neckline. And I am going to put notes on Ravelry. There are some basic notes, but I didn't actually talk about how I did the neck, and I love my scoop neck. It worked out perfectly for this pattern. And it is knit in Gleisk tweed. I think that's how you pronounce it, which is a really kind of a toothy, rustic, tweedy yarn. It's 100% wool, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's got, I love this color. I think it's discontinued. But it's got red and olive green and denim blue flecks in it, neps in it, and it's just lovely. And interestingly enough, this is not a yarn I normally would have chosen for this type of design, but I had it in my stash and I felt like using it and I wanted purple. And so I held it double. And it, believe it or not, it is not super drapey, but drapey enough. And I absolutely love it. What I will tell you is I did one extra repeat of the lace to make it longer. We did not do short rows. No, we did not do short rows. And the reason being, did we do short rows on this? No, we did not do short rows. But all I did for the neck, and it's very simple, is I took the number of stitches, checked my gauge, and when I got to about here, I knit across, then I put 16 stitches, because I kind of figured on me, I wanted the neck to sort of be about that wide and then start slowly coming up. So you got to sort of do a visual on yourself. And for me, based on this pattern, 16, it was a guess. 16 stitches. I cast off 16 stitches, and then I started doing the left and the right panel separately, knitting them separately. And all I did was I took one side, so I put all of these on hold, and then I started with a different set of needles, because I had two sets of needles. I continued in pattern, and then on my way back, I did knit two together, turned it around, knit back, and every second row, actually every fourth row was there. Yeah, because you knit one, two, three, four. So every fourth row, I would decrease by knit two together, and I only did it 4 times on each side. And then I just kind of went straight up, and it just turned out to be a beautiful neckline. So if you look at the Nina pattern, well, I'll show you a picture, but you'll notice it does not look the same as this. So absolutely love it. And no, this is not a split hem. This is my seam coming undone, because again, it's a sweater I wear all the time. I just have to remend that together. You could do a split hem. That would look okay. But no, mine's not intentional. Misadventure in knitting. So that is the Nina sweater. And so I apologize that I didn't cover that off in the last video, but boy, I got quite a few comments, so I thought, better address that. Okay, this, you know what this is. You know what this is. This is the Twist and Turns by Stephen West. Let me show you my beauty. Hang on 2 seconds. So, I'm contemplating doing a video just on this shawl alone because it was an adventure. I am so happy that I did not give up. I'm so happy, and I cannot wait for October for the next Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. So this is Twist and Turns by Stephen West. It was the 2022 Mystery Knit Along. And I'm just going to show it to you in all of its beautiful glory. And then I'm going to talk about it. And I'll probably do a video overlay so that when I talk about it, you can see each section. So, the centerpiece, this is the centerpiece, or maybe I'll just do it like this, I don't know. This is the centerpiece, and this is where you start. This is week's 1 clue. Now, this bottom part, and I'm not going to go through the yarns again. I've done several videos about the yarn choices. So I don't want to bore you with those details again, but I will put them down in the description below. But this is a chevron pattern, and you do a braid stitch, which is so fantastic. Like, look at these braids. those are just so much fun. This is the part where most people quit. This very first section, I would say, was the hardest to do because it was a lot of knitting and you were technically doing it in 1 week. And it was hard to visualize. I've never done anything like this. And so a lot of people gave up. They gave up because it was, you learned a lot from technique standpoint. It was a lot of knitting and a lot of people didn't like their colors. And as you'll remember, I started with different colors and ended up with these, which I'm so thankful. This bottom section is a different clue. So clue 1 was just the braided chevron pattern, not this bottom section, and pom-poms not included. Section 2 was knitting both stripes, this set of stripes and this set of stripes, these 4 stripes or 8 stripes, I guess, as well as the cabled section on the bottom. That was clue 2. Clue 3 was knitting, clue 3 was knitting these long bands. All those long bands. So the band on the bottom was clue 3. Clue 4 was finishing the shawl, which was this stripe section on both sides. Now, couple things. He gave you the option to put an I-cord detail in the cables at the bottom of section 2, which I opted to do. I did that after the fact, and it took quite a long. You have to do 10 I-cords and then weave them in, but a lovely detail. Secondly, what I will point out is that section 3, which was these bands, I did incorrectly. I was 1 full repeat short on both of them. I misread the pattern. So this beautiful wavy pattern that you get, you can see that, was supposed to have a full another wave. So I was supposed to go down, up, and then down. So I'm missing like 4 inches off of the end of this shawl. What did that do to my shawl? Well, that became evident I had a problem when it came to doing section 4. Section 4, you're supposed to decrease, make this narrower and narrower and narrower, and technically it's supposed to end up here into a point. So this should be a nice point like that. But try as I might, and I squished this. I actually doubled up some of these decreased stitches, so all I was left with was 2 points. And I made the best of it. I wasn't going to reknit it at that point, so I put pom-poms on it. Then there was a lot of debate online around what to do with the end, this section, because this was also part of the last piece. Oh, I can't remember I don't remember what clue this was, where you had to do this piece. I think it was optional, and it was after clue 4. Everybody has done this differently, because in Stephen West's piece, he continued the chevron striping in this shape, and he continued it with straight down, and then he does a decrease where it becomes a very angular bib, a very squared off, so it's on an angle and then goes flat and then goes on an angle back up. I'll try and show a picture, it's hard to describe. In the chevron colors. I didn't want to do any more chevroning, and I didn't like the shape of that bib on the bottom. He also just tacked these loops at the end of your braids. He just tacked them to the shawl. That was the pattern. So I opted to keep the angular shape of the chevrons, but I did it all in the one color, which I think is a beautiful, soft finish to the shawl. And then for my loops, these loops are fantastic to me. I love these loops. So I made alternating pom-poms. So I have this absolutely delectable shawl that even though I am 8 inches short pre-blocking, my shawl is almost 8 feet long. Like, I do not know how long this thing would have been. So this is my shawl. I love this thing. Where is it? Hang on a second. Hang on. Like, look at this beautiful thing. And that's my boo-boo, but nobody knows it's a boo-boo but me. Well, now you all know that it was a boo-boo, but it's a design feature. Or should I say, artist's interpretation of the design feature. And this is my twists and turns shawl. And I absolutely love it. It is magnificent. I will wear it all the time. I love the colors that I ended up choosing. If you're thinking about this, go soft is all I would say, but that's just my color preference for geometrics, I would say. If there's a geometric hard angular design, I prefer to go soft. There are some fabulous shawls on Instagram and Ravelry that are very high contrasty. It's just not my shtick. And I just thought, because some of it is very curvy, and some of it's very angular, doing it soft just blended it all together a little bit more for me. So absolutely lovely. In terms of the yarn, what I will say is that this dark pink is Life in the Long Grass. It came from the kit. The light color is Cheeky. It's Hedgehog Fiber Single Merino in the colorway Cheeky. And the light pink is a Madeline Tosh Merino Light in the color Rose. So those are the colors that I ended up going with, and I absolutely love it. And I'm so happy that I didn't give up. Oh, I'm so happy. So if that's any encouragement for anybody to try next year, or this year, pardon me, it's this year, 2023, you have my full support, and I will be rooting for you, because I can't wait. So that is finished object number 1. Nothing's going to get better than this shawl. So I'm just going to put it back here now so we can talk about the rest of the finished objects. Okay, so other finished objects. Not quite as exciting as that puppy, but let's go through them. Okay, so when I was still in Spain, I was trying to use up all of my yarn that I had brought with me. So I knit yet another pair of socks. So these are the shorties. These are the leftovers, miscellaneous leftovers, but predominantly the Cozy Knitter 24 stripe Advent sock from 2022. And in this particular one, I did use Kay Jones's crunkled sock motif, but the heel that I chose, I did them toe up, not cuff down, and I chose the, hope I get this right, the Shadow Wrap short row heel, or the short row shadow wrap heel. Shadow Wrap short reel. I have a hard time with that one. But I absolutely love how the detail comes out in that pattern. Just the way the stripes, this is self-striping yarn, and just the way you knit the sock, it ended up, I just started with a new color and it used the 2 full colors for the actual heel. What a blast. So these are super nice fitting shorties, and no more of that yarn left over. Brilliant. Then my second pair of socks, these were my New Year cast, was this my New Year's cast on? This was my Christmas Eve cast on, and I just finished these, and these are also Cozy Knitter self-striping sock in her Glitz base, which is a Stellina, and it's in the colorway Huga, and these are the actual Kay Jones crunkled socks, which is just this beautiful, puffy, marshmallowy. I'll show you, it shows a little bit better when it's off the blockers, but it's this really nice puffy, there you go. And when you're wearing it on your leg, I still see the puffy. My blockers are a little bit big, but that beautiful motif, I absolutely loved it. It worked really well with self-striping yarn. I thought the self-striping yarn might take away from the pattern a bit, but it didn't. And so these socks are cuff down, heel flap and gusset. I just do your traditional square toe. I do want to try some different techniques this year. So in terms of heels and toes. So we'll have to see how that goes. So that was finished object number 3. I have one more finished object. The last finished object, okay, if you saw my last podcast, my finished object was the hat. Can't remember. So I did show this, and this is Woolly Cauldron in the Santa's Summer Sangria colorway. And I had put originally a furry pom-pom, that one, on this hat. But the pink, and this pink and those pinks were 2 different fuchsias. They were different fuchsias. So I made a pom-pom, and now I have a hat. And this is not the Cozy Me Beanie. It's the Cuddle Me Beanie. There you go. That's why I couldn't find the pattern last time. So thank you for all of you who corrected me on that. It's the Cuddle Me Beanie, and known as the CMB Beanie. The Cuddle Me Beanie. It's a perfect fit. I absolutely love it. So that I showed on the last podcast. The reason I'm showing it again is because, and I think I might have shown these as well, the mittens. Yes, I think I did show these. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, the tin can knits. I'm pretty sure I showed these because the edges, I'm having a brain burp, but I think I showed these, so I'm not going to go into them too much. But these were the Tin Can Knits World's Simplest Mittens. I did the tops a little bit wrong, but oh well. So that is a matching set. There's method to my madness for showing you this potentially again, because I don't remember. That leads me into works in progress. So first, let me show you works in progress, which I've probably already talked about as well. But this is the Zarra Shawl. Again, my intention was to make sure I had no scraps left of my yarn that I brought to Spain with me. But I did. I had quite a bit left. And so this is, again, the same colorway. And all I've done is the Zarra Shawl is a free pattern. And so I'll put a picture up for you. And it's just a very simple triangle shawl construction with a little bit of eyelets. I embellished the eyelets. I love eyelets, so I put more in. And I did a thicker stripe down here. And my intention with this, I do not know how big it's going to get. It's not going to be small. It's not going to be large. It's going to be larger than a shawlette and smaller than a schlanket. So, because, where am I? This is pretty much, it's going to be at least 5 feet. So I don't know. My intention is to just knit until I have no yarn left over. And I only have that much left. So that's probably about 3 or 4 rows. It'll be interesting to see how much that is. Maybe it's 3 rows of the Woolly Cauldron. And then I am just holding the white is just some miscellaneous sock yarn held double with some Knitting for Olive silk mohair in cream. And so I might get 1, 2, 3, I might get this much more, another 1.5 inches, 2 inches in wingspan. And then I'm gonna bind it off in the hot pink, which is just a mini from Hue Loco. I don't remember what set it was from, but it's just a pinky mini. Where are you there? Pink mini, there you go. So that is WIP number 1. And one thing I would say or add before I finish with this project is whenever I'm knitting a shawl that literally is just, any kind of edging, anytime, doesn't matter what it is. When I get to the edging, it's usually like, knit 3 and then turn it around and purl 3 if you're doing the garter ridge. Always on my knit row side, I will knit 1, do a wrap, knit the second stitch, do a wrap, knit the end stitch, then turn it around. And when I'm on the back side, I'll knit the first stitch, drop the wrap, knit the second stitch, drop the wrap, knit the third stitch, and then start purling as per pattern. The reason I do that, I wrap twice on one row and once on another row. And I do that so that I get additional stretch on the edge, so when I'm blocking it has more give. I have made shawls in the past where I didn't do that. I didn't give that extra yarn, those wraps, and I have found that my shawl had so much fabric in here that it wanted to stretch, but it was limited by the actual edge. It wouldn't give enough to let the shawl fully relax. So that is something I've learned in shawl making, and I probably with this one, because of the mohair, I don't think silk mohair stretches at all. I probably could have done a little bit more just to get a little bit more stretch, because I know I have a ton of stretch that's going to give and grow this way, and I just didn't want to be limited in the binding at the top. Anyway, that's just my helpful hint. It's not my idea. I caught that from some other knitter at some point in the past, but I thought I would share it because if you haven't knit shawls or you are running into that problem where you're not getting the flexibility in your blocking, then you might want to just do yarn overs on those edge stitches, in between the edge stitches, so that you get a little bit more give in your shawl. So there you go. So that was one WIP. My other WIPs are a little bit whimsical. One is a sentimental WIP, one is a whimsical WIP, and the other one is a wearable wardrobe knit. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, so let's go with my sentimental WIP. So my sentimental WIP is the Manou from, I think that's how you pronounce it, Manou, from Isabel Kramer. It's a pullover, and I am using these beautiful, beautiful skeins of yarn. Look at these colors. Now you might recognize them from a previous podcast. I was going to do, let me just grab them here because they're right here. Oops, whoops, as I'm dropping stuff. You might recognize these because I was going to do Kate Hunter's The Guthrie. I don't know why. I just didn't feel like doing the entire sweater in color work. I got lazy. Yeah, I just didn't feel like doing the entire sweater in color work. So, as you can see from the photo, the color work is just at the top and the bottom. And these are the yarns. Ooh, I have to get a different skein because this one, oh, I forgot the label. But anyway, these are Olan yarns, and I got these also at Barcelona Knits. And this one, this is DK in their Donegal DK. It's a tweed base. Look at this. This is like camo, man. I love this one. And I don't recollect the colorway at the moment, so I'll put it on the screen when I find the band. And this is the colorway Field, which is just this beautiful, beautiful speckled variegated tweed. And so it's going to be subtle color work because there's a lot of the greens in here that are similar to this camel color. I love this. This is greens and grays and browns. Oh my God, it's just beautiful. The reason there's no labels on this yarn is because as I was knitting with it, my hand went completely black. And I only got this far. So, this is my second attempt at it, because the first attempt I got to about this stage and my hand was black. And I thought, oh my, I can't continue to knit with this if it's going to be this black. If it's going to give off this much dye, I better wash these skeins. So I did. I unraveled them, tied them, re-washed them, and a ton of the black color came off. I started re-knitting, so I have to put my glasses on, sorry folks, because I can't see what I'm doing. But you can just see the subtle specks of color. I'm so I'm only a couple rows into the color work so far. But it's going to be just gorgeous. I love these colors. Oh my God, they make me just so happy. But my hands are still turning black. So I've washed the yarn now and my hands are still turning black. So I don't know what that is. I don't think it's going to ruin the color of the field. I don't. But there's something about the way the black is set in this. I worry that this will fade, you know, that it's going to be a lot lighter than it is now. I don't want it to lose too much of that beautiful dye, that camo look, you know, camouflagey, army look. I love this green. It just, oh, it's so exciting. So I am using, what am I using? I am knitting exactly to pattern. I'm knitting the size medium 2, and I am using 4mm needles. And you had to start with a provisional cast on, which I've gotten good at. I am actually quite proficient now at provisional cast ons. What I am not great at is getting the yarn to come out properly. So we'll see if I did it right this time. But you're technically, when you get back up to the neck portion, you're supposed to be able to unravel this scrap yarn. You can see I've used purple scrap yarn as my provisional. I used a crochet hook to do the provisional cast on. It's supposed to hold your stitches for you so that you have live stitches. So then you go back and you unravel this as you slip the stitches back on your needle, and it's supposed to just pull out gently. I have yet to have that happen. I've done about 3 provisional casts on, and I have to cut the yarn every single time. I don't know. I'm obviously not doing it correctly, even though I watch videos. We shall see. But anyway, that is the Manou sweater by Isabel Kramer. So that is WIP number 2. And that is sitting in my So Shannon scrappy project bag. My third work in progress, and this is the whimsical one, because I mean, I love that camouflagey green, you know, sweater that, oh, just makes my heart sing. Love it. But then I wanted color. So I wouldn't say I thrifted, but I did see on Marketplace a lady in my neighborhood was getting rid of all of her Noro yarn. And it was scrap yarn. She had done some sort of a weaving project with her Noro yarn, and she had all these remnants. So I got a big, this is my bag, but I got a big stash of Noro remnants for, I don't know, $30 or something. And so I am just piecemealing them together, and I am knitting my piecemeal that I am piecemealing together. I'm still getting fluff everywhere. Is the Flax. The Flax sweater by Tin Can Knits. I'll put up a picture. Mine doesn't look anything like theirs because it is self-striping. And so far I haven't had to do too much yarn management. I've only got 2 balls that have these beautiful jewelry tones in it. The rest are all greens, forest green, red, blue, gold. So pretty much I'm probably going to do the top and the bottom in these colors, and then the in-between is all going to be just gold and greens and reds and whatever. And then the bottom I'll pick up. I'm thinking, I'm not 100% sure yet. This is the whimsical. That might be too much thought for me. I might just knit and then it turns out the way it turns out. But this is the Flax. It is, what I love about this pattern is it's free. It's all sizes. Tin Can Knits is famous for that. You can pretty much, sorry, my camera keeps going out. It comes in all sizes, and you can pretty much do any yarn, I think, and any needle size. I'm using 5.0 needles. I am knitting the size 4, I do believe, adult. The size 3 adult. You cast on 90 stitches. I have to think about what size I'm doing. And I am doing the garter panel down the sleeves, and I am loving how that looks. So this garter panel is going, it starts at the shoulder and it's going to go all the way down the sleeves. So I am absolutely loving how this is turning out. Look at those corners. I love the increases on this. And there's, again, I keep saying this, there's method to my madness. Excuse me. Don't know if you can see it. Ah, yes, you can. 2 purl rows. And I've got markers. This is the front. I am going to try and steek it and turn it into a cardigan. Okay, so I was going to do that with the Guthrie. That's what I was planning. But that was really expensive yarn. I didn't want to screw it up. So I chickened. That was another reason I didn't do the Guthrie. And I didn't want to do all over color work. But this is almost thrifted yarn. It's super colorful. It's super fun. And I am comfortable that if my steeking doesn't really work out, I've put a lot of time and effort into it, but not a lot of money. So that is what I'm doing. So I have added an additional 7 stitches, and I just purled 1, knit 5, purled 1, and I've got it, you know, marked off. So all the way down. And then this will also, I have Noelle to thank from Knits and Pieces, Noelle, because she inspired me. Because I bought, one of my acquisitions, I'll show you now, is a felting pad and a 7-point felting needle. So I am going to try, I don't know if it's Noelle's technique, but she's the one who highlighted it in Knits and Pieces, their knit cafe on Tuesday nights. I am going to try and felt it first before I cut. So lots of plans for this, guys. It's going to be fun. It's going to be the adventure, hopefully not the misadventure, in my knitting. And yeah, so it's going to be fun. So this is one of the balls. It's all silk Noro, by the way. Some of them is silk Noro in the solo colors. Some of it is in different colorways. I only have these 2 skeins that have the purple and blues. Everything else is more either a solid green, a solid gold, or this particular colorway, which is greens and blues and grays. And so we'll see. We'll see how this turns out. It's just an experiment. It's almost like a scrappy sweater, but not quite. So excellent, excellent, excellent. So that is WIP number 4. I think that's WIP number 4, right? No, that's WIP number 3. Pardon me. WIP number 3. WIP number 4, I have to go get. Hang on. Okay, WIP number 4 is just hanging out in my Crafty Fiber bag, and Crafty Fiber doesn't exist anymore. One of the pandemic sort of casualties. Oh, this is the Gleisk. Okay, so my purple sweater, this is the label, except this is a different color. It's called Gleisk Tweed. I bought a lot of it. I don't know why. I bought it in blue. I bought it in sort of a brownie color. I bought it in gray. I bought it in cream. I don't know. This is the Criss Cross by Isabel Kramer. Don't ask me. I'm having an Isabel Kramer moment. But this is an actual cardigan that has a lace design on the back, a very simplified lace design on the back. I hope you can see that. Oh, it's hard to see. Hard to show you. There you go. There's the beginning of the Criss Cross. Don't know if you can see that. And it's just on the back. And I'll put a picture up. But again, I am doing this in the Gleisk Tweed held double because this is a sport weight yarn. So I would like to knit something with it just in the sport weight itself. But for some reason I keep choosing patterns that require DK or something or worsted, and so I end up holding it double. And I like the fabric. It's toothier, but for me, this is going to be warm, and this is a wardrobe piece, and I'll talk about that later when I come to intentions. But I really wanted to try this because it's got the saddle shoulder construction, which I've never done before, and this is so brilliant. I'm still having a hard time conceptualizing it, but you literally are just doing an increase pattern that It's not raglans. You're actually just creating a shoulder cap. And so I don't know if there's going to be raglans after that. I don't know how it's going to be constructed because I'm only a little way into it, but I'm thoroughly enjoying this knit. I am using Leisk needles, which are lovely, but I would say that this yarn is grippy enough that I could switch to stainless. I only tend to use wooden needles and bamboo needles when the yarn is super slippery. Like for some shawls, when you're using fine merino, it just is too slippery, so I prefer to use bamboo. But I don't know why I'm using wooden ones. Maybe I ran out of needles, which could be. But again, for Isabel Kramer patterns, for some reason, I'm a medium 2. And these are US 7s, which I think is US 4.5 or 4.5 millimeter. But I'm loving it. I love the tweedy look. I love the denim-y color. These never have a color. They have a number. This is shade T17, T17. And I have a lot of it, and I have to hold it double. So that is the final work in progress. Oh my gosh. So I've got lots of knitting. I've got lots of knitting on the go, on the needles, all of which I am loving. There is not a sock. I'm going to have to cast on a sock at some point because I need to have a sock. It's just the way it goes. But I'm loving absolutely every one of my knits that I'm doing. And I'm so inspired because of the intentions for 2023. I'm starting off absolutely unbeknownst to me. I'm starting off with the intentions. When I say unbeknownst to me, what I mean is I started knitting all this stuff, but they're fitting in really well with the intentions that I then thought about. So don't know if that kind of works that way, but it turned out. So take a break if you have to, grab some more coffee. I'm going to have a sip, and then let's get into, for those of you that were just here for the knitting and you don't want to hear intentions and you don't want to hear about planning 2023, then by all means sign off now. Thank you so much for sticking around this long. For the rest of you, I'm going to quickly, I'm not going to spend too much time, but I'm going to go through my intentions, a little bit of yik yak about that, and then I'm going to share 2 designs that I'm looking at for 2023 to start off, just to dream knitting, but kind of it goes in with my intentions for the year. Officially cold coffee, not my shtick. Okay, so first and foremost, my word for the year is build. Not a unique word, not an exciting word, but very appropriate for me. Because now I'm entering, I think, my 5th year of knitting. Yay. I'm entering my 4th year of podcasting. Yay. I'm also approaching 60. I'm going to say yay anyway. Approaching 60. So for me, this is really a foundational year. It's, I'm really thinking about how I'm going to build strength, build stability, excuse me, in my body. I think that's a very important thing for me this year. But I also want to build on all the things that are working well. So I've been eating really healthily, so I want to build on that. I want to build better practices and better routines, because I do still think I need better habits. I tend to have to think about things a lot, and I'd rather not spend so much brain space thinking about stuff. I'd like them just to be routines for me, habits. I would like to build better knitting practices, so a little bit more structure around that. I'll talk about that. For example, this is my podcast. Knitting for me is all about fun. So I do not want to have goals. Goals to me are, I have personal goals, absolutely. But knitting's just my escapism, my space where I might show you designs today and I might never knit them because there is no obligation, there is no timeline, there is no commitment. I'm not signing a contract. There is no boss of me in knitting. I'm the boss of me. So Goals are not the thing. Intentions are. So building for me is just about, I'm rambling a little bit, but it really is just foundational. Building a wardrobe, building my health, building strength, building better practices, building relationships. And certainly with all of you, like the podcast to me is about building relationships. And so wow, it's been fantastic. And it can only get better. So I'm just loving it. So build is my word for the year. Onward. So, in terms of intentions, I have 9 intentions. I don't do 9. I'm going to show a picture here. Here's why I don't do 9. I showed last year a picture of what I was going to knit, the sort of 9 patterns I really liked. I did intentions again, but I think I actually said I was going to knit these 9 things. I knit 2. So, no make 9. We have 9 intentions. My first and foremost intention is to make wearable knits. And by wearable knits, I mean classic pieces, timeless pieces. Doesn't mean they can't be fun and doesn't mean they can't be colorful, but they've got to not be a fad, a color fad, a pattern fad. They have to have a little bit more staying power. I have to love wearing it. I have to absolutely love wearing it. Like, I love wearing this thing. I love wearing my Nina sweater. I have to love wearing it. I've made some things, and maybe I'll talk about that in another podcast, that, no, didn't love wearing them. Don't know why I made them. Anyway, they have to be flexible in that they have to be interchangeable. They have to go with many things, because if I'm trying to create a wearable wardrobe, I want to mix and match. So this has a lot to do with color and texture. And while I don't want to be all neutrals, because I do love color, right? I do love color. Look at that. Look at that. It has to, doesn't have to. There's always going to be those one-off pieces. But for the most part, I would like my wardrobe to be multiple, go with different things, just so I can wear more than one outfit with it. I can put it together with more than one thing. The other thing is it has to be super flexible in terms of how you wear it, that you can dress it up or cash it down so that it suits multiple purposes, not just goes with multiple colors and multiple outfits, but different purposes. It has to be season appropriate. In other words, I don't have really anything except for my white ranunculus. Everything else I've made for the summer has gone away for some strange reason. So I want to make sure I have season appropriate stuff that makes a wearable wardrobe. And that to me is what I mean by wearable wardrobe. So that is my intention when I do my knits. And I look at what I've got on the needle so far. I've got my whimsical flax, which is going to be a cardigan. That is always wearable, cardigans. I've got the Criss Cross cardigan, but also in a denim blue. That is going to be imminently wearable. The one that's a little bit of the outlier is my Manou sweater that is in sort of a khaki army green with the field color work. That's a pullover. That color, it'll be interesting to see how flexible that design and that color ends up being in my wardrobe, but that's the way it is. My second intention is I want to knit from stash. So that goes into, and which was an intention last year as well, and I did a very good job. I just want to continue with that, and I want to build on that. Doesn't mean I'm not buying yarn. It just means I really want to. I've got such beautiful yarns in my stash that I'm going to be, talking about in the next episode, that I really want to knit some of those. I've been hanging on to some of these yarns I've had since 2017, 2018. So I'd like to start using some of those. I'd like to make more challenging knits. And by challenging, I'm just talking about unique construction. So not just the raglan. I mean, I love this. You're always going to have your bread and butter sweater and socks. But I'd like to really build on my skills and do some new construction type of things. For example, my Criss Cross with the saddle shoulder, that is a new element for me. which leads into new skills. So new construction is one thing. So maybe that's more about knitting sideways, knitting cables, more intricate lace, patterns that come in pieces versus in the round. Maybe that's what more challenging is. And now that I think about it out loud, that is what more challenging is. But learning new skills is about doing different toe and heel constructions on my socks. I'm always doing the same thing. Try something new. Doing the saddle shoulder. I'm going to do steeking with my flax cardigan. So absolutely, number 4 is learn new skills. Number 5 is I want to buy a special yarn. I don't know what that means, but there's so many sheep breeds out there that I haven't even explored yet. I would like to buy one special or unique breed or blend yarn. I don't know what that looks like. I'm going to be going to just a couple of fiber festivals, and when I go, that is what I'm going to be looking for. Number 6, my epic fail last year and the year before was charity knitting, and I really do want to do charity knitting. And not just, the stuff that I don't like. I would like to actually give to charity some quality knits. And so this set is going to charity. And I think this is a quality knit. So these mittens with my little pink thumb, just because. These mittens, this hat, and the shawl when I finish it are all going to go to charity. So I am going to find a group, and I've said this before. I'm thinking either a women's shelter and or a seniors care home. I'm not too sure. I think I might even like to do some sort of a knit along around charity, maybe a shawl knit along where we donate the shawls. Maybe you would like to comment below about that. Is that something you would be interested in doing? Knitting a shawl for charity, and it can be out of acrylic. It doesn't have to be expensive. Maybe you've already knit a shawl and you just never wear it. Maybe you'd like to donate it. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. But anyway, I want to knit for charity. That's number 6. Number 7, same as last year, make space for event knitting. I have to put it down as an intention because I definitely want to do Stephen West's again, and I want to do my Advent knitting, which I love so much. And if there's something else, if anybody knows of a mystery, not necessarily a mystery knit along, but a knit along or an event, a knitting event that I should take a look at, I'd love to hear from you. Number 8, I want to add some structure to my knitting. And by structure, because I love having WIPs. They do not stress me out to have WIPs. However, I have noticed that some of my WIPs languish. They languish, perhaps for a year or two. I don't want to have languishing WIPs to that length. So I would like to rotate my WIPs. And so the structure that I'm thinking of is things like maybe languishing WIP Wednesday, and scrappy Sundays. I like the idea of scrappy Sundays because I do have all those crochet grannies and I love scrappy socks. And I have a whole bunch of scrap yarn that is beautiful that I would like to use. And then maybe Me Made Monday. Whatever those definitions are going to be, I would just like to structure my knitting throughout the week. It has to be flexible, obviously, because knitting has to be what I want to do. I have to feel like knitting on whatever it is I'm knitting on. I'm not going to structure it to the point where I must do scrappy stuff on Sunday. No, that's too regimented. But just having some, okay, today's Sunday. Sunday you can work on scrappy. This is your time for scrappy projects if you want it. Wednesdays, that's your time to work on languishing WIPs if you feel like it. You might want to, if I start on a languishing WIP on Wednesday and I totally get into it, I might go for 3 days just knitting on that languishing WIP. But just a little bit more structure in my knitting. And 9, my last intention, this is very aspirational, very aspirational. I would like to, in a meaningful way, inspire someone or teach someone to knit. Just one person. Just one person. So those are my 9 intentions. So, so I thought that was those are my 9 intentions, so you can hold me to them. And like I said, they're intentions, so they're a little flexible, but that's kind of the way I'm structuring out my year. And that leads to the last part of this podcast, which I just want to share with you 2 designs that are catching my eye right now that really work into my wearable wardrobe intention. The first one is sweater number 14. And it's interesting because this is by My Favorite Things, which is a very popular designer, and it's probably the only thing that I'll make from My Favorite Things, only because the designs are, they're very classic, they're beautiful, but all of the designs seem to have a certain type of yarn held together with mohair, or held, they're very lofty, very light, and that gets really expensive. It really, really does. I mean, if you're using 2 or 3 yarns in a project for the whole entire project, like hold a blown yarn with 2 strands of mohair, that for, like, I'm willing to spend money on my knitting, but I have to think about all the other types of yarn that's out there that I can't make too many sweaters like that. I don't know. I just find it's very costly. But sweater number 14 definitely caught my eye. And it's funny because this sweater was in 3 of my, or at least 2 other of my knit ladies, Jackie, Noreen, hello, in their queue to make. And it was in mine. And so we've decided to do a mini knit along. So we're doing a mini knit along about sweater number 14. If anybody wants to join, let me know. And this sweater is lace held with fingering. So it's 2 strands of silk mohair held with a fingering. So, or you could do a DK and a lace, or you can do a worsted and a lace. So it's quite flexible on how you do it. However, it is including mohair. If you look on Ravelry, people have done it with other yarns, but it changes the look and the weight of the sweater. So just be aware of that. The idea of this sweater is that it's nice and lofty and light. So I opted, it's done with 5 and 6 millimeter needles, which I think is US 8. I'll put that on the screen. But what I really liked about sweater number 14 is it's a V-neck. I haven't made a V-neck before. Bang, new skill. It's a classic relaxed look. It is very, very wearable. You can dress it up, you can dress it down. And it is a size inclusive pattern, which is quite nice. That is one pattern. The second pattern, if I pronounce this correctly, that I'm really interested in making is the Miro Mesnil. I hope I said that. Probably the Middle Mesnil by Cleonis. And this is a worsted weight pattern. And literally it's DK plus, again, mohair. But you could just do it in worsted weight. And I think you could just do it in DK. And I'm thinking about that for my own version of it. It's a 4.5 millimeter, 5 millimeter needle. You need approximately 1,300 yards. What I love about this particular one, and I think Melissa from Espace Tricot is what really trigged me into that pattern several years ago, is it's stylish. It's a very unique style. It is figure flattering because it's blousey. It can be dressed up and dressed down. It is wear it with jeans, wear it with a silk skirt. Depending on what yarn you use with it, you can absolutely dress it up or dress it down. So those are the 2 patterns that I'm really liking. And let's just talk about yarns for a minute, because as I go through my stash, so for the sweater number 14, okay, 2 different options that I am considering. Where is it? So 2 different options. I have, now you can do it, remember you can do sweater number 14 with fingering, or lace and fingering. So I thought maybe doing it in blue. I like the blue. and holding it together with Knitting by Olive silk mohair in the marine, just to deepen this royal blue a little bit. Because while I love royal blue, I do, and I think it looks good on me. I'm a winter technically. I'd like to tone it down a little bit, make it a little bit more classic, and I think the marine would actually do that quite nicely. That's option number 1. Option number 2 is this DK. This is, what yarn is this? This is called Bloomsbury DK by the Yarn Collective. It's 100% merino. It's DK, and it's in the, what colorway is it called? Soot. It's called Soot, held together with this slightly more blue-gray silk mohair from Shibui, and I have had this in my stash since 2017. So this is really old stash. This is was gifted to me through a wool swap that I did last year. This is deep, deep stash. This is, what is this? I have to think about what yarn this is. I'll put it on the screen. I can't remember, but I've had this for a long, long, long time. Again, 100% merino in fingering weight. So I'm still undecided. I will think about it, but I was originally thinking the gray, just because it's sort of a sweatshirty sort of style with the V-neck, and the Shibui elevates it a little bit. But then, I don't know, that's a pretty fun color. Navy is kind of classic. Blue's kind of classic. Wonder which one I'd get more wear out of. I'm going to have to seriously think about this. Okay, so those are my 2 options for that sweater. For the second sweater, the oh my goodness, I have such a hard time. Mira Mesnil. I thought, very simply, keep it simple. Let the sweater do the talking. But I have this cotton merino classic, and I think this is Mayflower yarn, in a beautiful denim-y heathered look. It's a denim-y heathered look. And I thought about that because I have to also start thinking about knitting for a warmer climate. Because every time I go to Spain, I have no sweaters to wear. So I like the idea of something blousy and airy, but with a little merino in it to keep you warm. And so that is what I'm thinking of. So just doing it straight DK. And I'm thinking, so it's a little bit more sweatshirty. I'm going to dress it down a bit. But I was thinking that yarn for the Miro Mesnil. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's very difficult, very difficult. So that is it for my knitting plans for 2023. And no chatter today, folks, because I think you've been listening long enough. But I absolutely have had a blast putting this together, and so thrilled with what's coming up. The next video that's going to come up is going to be about organizing my stash. And it's not that it was super unorganized, but I think it's important to go through it every once in a while and just really, I've been collecting yarn for a while, for 5 years and 4 years, just over 4 years. And I loved it all. I have been going through it and I have been categorizing it and I've loved it all. But there's certain, my tastes have changed, absolutely. My tastes have changed. Sometimes I have purchased yarn online and the color wasn't quite what I thought it was. No harm, no foul. I'm happy to support yarn dyers, indie dyers. But that is just the risk that you take when you order online. It doesn't happen a lot, but every once in a while I get a colorway that, or I've joined clubs, and I love just, again, to support the dyers. I'll join a club and I'll get 3 or 4 months worth of yarn. And maybe it's my shtick, maybe it's not, I don't know. Most of the time it is. But there's some colorways that I just know, I love the colors. I love the colors, but I know I'll never knit with them. And I've been hanging on to them because I love them. Because I love the color. And there's a good memory associated with it. So if it's not my taste change, then maybe it's not the right color for me personally. all beautiful yarns. Those I'm actually going to put up on Ravelry for Trade or Sell. And so, for example, this beautiful colorway, like look at this. These are 4 beautiful DK weight 100% merino. Hope you can see those in a fade. And they're peachy sherbety raspberry yarns. Not something I'm going to knit with. I love them. I love looking at them. They're so pretty. How much do we have here? I love the dyer. I have lots of this dyer's yarn, and I love it. This is 85% merino, 15% nylon, and it is 225 meters per. So we have 900. So we have 900 meters. Oh, this is in meters. Okay. So we have about 1,000. Yeah, just shy of 1,000 probably yards. So definitely sweaters quantity for someone, or vest quantity, or child, or whatever. It's just gorgeous, but not something I'm going to knit with. So things like that. So I've been going through that process. Doesn't mean I'm not buying yarn, folks. I will be buying yarn, but I am also going to be, you know, letting go of some of the stuff that I've just been hanging on to for a very long time. And so there you go, folks. Thank you so much for watching and spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to, not necessary. This channel is growing all just organically, which is wonderful. And again, I don't intend to make money, or I'm not a maker. I don't sell anything. It is strictly for the fun of knit and sharing that fun with you. And in turn, you're sharing some of the fun with me. So greatly appreciated. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.